The alien arena roared with the sound of thousands of spectators. Massive screens hovered above the battlefield, showing the next match. The Xarn Dominion's gladiator tournament was a brutal tradition. Only the strongest survived. Commander Ryan Holt stood in the center of the arena, his body covered in bruises and dust. His hands were clenched into fists, his breathing steady. He had already fought 5 times today. His opponents had been monstrous creatures, some with claws, others with thick armor-like skin. Somehow, he had defeated them all. The announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. Final match: the human versus Drexar, the Unbroken. The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter. Ryan was the only human in this tournament, a prisoner forced to fight. His opponents had been dangerous, but Drexar was a legend. The towering reptilian warlord had never lost a match. His thick green scales gleamed under the bright lights. His yellow eyes glowed with confidence as he stepped forward. Ryan knew this was his toughest battle yet. He had no armor, no weapon, only his instincts and training. He rolled his shoulders and took a deep breath. Losing was not an option. Drexar grinned, revealing sharp teeth. "You have done well, human," he said. "But this is where your luck ends." Ryan didn't reply. He just watched, waiting. The horn sounded, and the fight began. Drexar moved fast for his size. He swung a massive fist at Ryan, but the human ducked just in time. The ground cracked where the punch landed. Ryan darted to the side, searching for an opening. He knew he couldn't match Drexar's strength, but speed and strategy were his weapons. Drexar attacked again, swiping his claws toward Ryan's chest. Ryan barely managed to twist away, feeling the air move past his skin. He had to stay in control. One wrong move, and it was over. The audience laughed. To them, this was entertainment. They didn't expect Ryan to last long. But Ryan had a plan. He kept dodging, making Drexar chase him. The massive warrior grew frustrated. He was used to enemies fighting back, not running. His movements became wilder, angrier. That's what Ryan wanted. Then Ryan saw his chance. Drexar lunged, and Ryan jumped aside at the last second. The alien stumbled forward, just what Ryan had been waiting for. Using all his strength, Ryan leaped onto Drexar's back and locked his arm around the reptilian's thick neck. Drexar roared and tried to throw him off, but Ryan held on, tightening his grip. The massive warrior thrashed, slamming his back against the walls, trying to shake the human loose. Pain exploded in Ryan's ribs, but he refused to let go. The crowd gasped. They had never seen anything like this. Drexar fell to his knees, his movements slowing. He tried to pull Ryan off, but his strength was fading. His eyes widened in shock. He was losing. With one final burst of energy, Ryan twisted Drexar's head to the side, forcing the warrior into unconsciousness. The giant fell forward, motionless. Silence filled the arena. Then, the announcer's voice echoed through the stadium. "Unbelievable. The human has won." The crowd erupted into chaos. Some cheered. Others shouted in disbelief. The undefeated champion had fallen, and a human had done it. Ryan rolled off Drexar's back and collapsed on the ground, breathing heavily. He had done it. He had survived. The Xarn officials entered the arena. One of them raised a clawed hand. "By the rules of the tournament, the victor may claim a prize." Ryan barely had time to think before a powerful voice rang out. "I choose the human." The entire stadium turned to see General Valmara, one of the most feared warriors of the Xarn Dominion. She stood tall, her dark blue armor gleaming under the arena lights. Ryan frowned. He had expected wealth, weapons, or maybe even his freedom to be offered. But Valmara had chosen him. Whispers spread through the crowd. No one understood why. But Ryan knew one thing. His fate had just taken an unexpected turn. Ryan sat inside a metal cell, his hands resting on his knees. The walls hummed softly, the ship's engines vibrating beneath him. He had been taken from the arena only hours ago, and now he was on General Valmera's warship. He still didn't understand why she had chosen him. The Xarn were a warrior race. They valued strength above all else. If she wanted a prize, she could have taken Drexar's weapons, a fortune in gold, or even the honor of claiming victory for herself. But instead, she had chosen him. The door hissed open, and 2 Xarn guards entered. Their scaly skin shimmered under the dim lights. One of them, a bulky alien with red markings on his face, growled. "The general calls for you, human," he said. Ryan stood up slowly. He had no idea what Valmera wanted, but he needed to stay alert. He had already survived the arena. He wasn't about to let his guard down now. The guards led him through the ship's long corridors. The Xarn warship was massive, built for battle. Dark metal walls lined the hallways, and soldiers passed by, giving Ryan cold, curious looks. Finally, they'd reached a large chamber. The doors slid open, revealing General Valmera sitting on a raised platform. Her armor was off, replaced with a dark military uniform. Her sharp golden eyes studied Ryan as he stepped inside. The guards left, and the doors sealed behind him. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Valmera spoke. "You fought well, human," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You were not supposed to win, but you did." Ryan crossed his arms. "I didn't fight to win. I fought to survive." She nodded. "And yet, you did more than survive. You defeated Drexar. That is no small feat." Ryan didn't respond. He wasn't sure what she wanted from him. Valmera stood and walked toward him, her gaze never leaving his. "You are a mystery to the Xarn," she said. "Humans, you are not the strongest. You are not the fastest. Yet in every war, in every battle, your kind refuses to surrender. You fight beyond logic, beyond reason. Even when you have lost, you do not stop." Ryan held her gaze. "That's just who we are." Valmera tilted her head. "I want to understand it." Ryan frowned. "Understand what?" She stepped closer, stopping just inches from him. "I want to know what makes humans different. Why do you fight the way you do? Why do you not break?" Ryan exhaled slowly. "You won't find the answer in a cell." Valmera's lips curled slightly in amusement. "No, I won't." She turned and gestured toward the doors. "You are no longer a prisoner, Ryan Holt. You will be my guest." Ryan narrowed his eyes. "And if I refuse?" Her expression didn't change. "Then I will send you back to the arena, and you will fight again. And again. Until you no longer stand." Ryan clenched his jaw. She wasn't giving him a choice. He glanced around the chamber. No weapons. No easy exits. If he tried to escape now, he wouldn't make it far. He had to play this carefully. Finally, he nodded. "All right. I'll cooperate. For now." Valmera smiled slightly. "Good. Then let us begin." As she turned away, Ryan couldn't help but wonder, was she studying him like a scientist studies an animal? Or was there something more to this? One thing was certain. His fight wasn't over yet. Ryan walked beside General Valmera through the dimly lit corridors of the Xarn warship. The metal walls were lined with alien symbols, glowing faintly with energy. The air smelled of oil and machinery, a reminder that this was a warship built for battle. Even without guards escorting him, Ryan knew he wasn't free. He was still in enemy territory. Every Xarn warrior they passed gave him cold, suspicious looks. Some whispered to each other, their sharp claws twitching. To them, he was nothing more than a strange, weak creature. Valmera led him to a large chamber. The walls were covered with holographic displays, showing maps of different planets, battle reports, and fleet positions. Ryan studied them quickly, memorizing whatever he could. Valmera sat down in a chair made of dark metal. She gestured for him to sit across from her. He hesitated, then sat. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she finally spoke. "Tell me, Ryan Holt, What drives your people to fight so hard? Ryan leaned back, crossing his arms. Why do you care? Valmera's golden eyes narrowed slightly. Because your kind is different. The Ktarn have fought many species. Some are stronger than us. Some are smarter. But humans, you fight beyond reason. You fight even when you should surrender. I have seen human soldiers fight with broken bones, with no weapons, even when there is no chance of survival. Why? Ryan was silent for a moment. Then he shrugged. Because we don't believe in giving up. Valmera frowned. That is not an answer. Ryan sighed. All right then. It's because we fight for something bigger than ourselves. Family. Friends. Home. We don't fight just to win. We fight because we must. Valmera studied him carefully. Then she leaned forward slightly. The Ktarn do not understand this, she admitted. We fight for dominance. Strength is everything. If we are stronger, we rule. If we are weaker, we fall. Ryan tilted his head. And what about you? Do you believe that? Valmera didn't answer immediately. She looked at one of the holograms, a map of Earth. I chose you, Ryan, because I want to understand humans, she said finally. But there is another reason. Ryan waited. Valmera's voice lowered. The Ktarn Dominion is planning a full-scale invasion of Earth. Ryan's entire body tensed. His fingers curled into fists. When? He demanded. Soon, Valmera said. The War Council believes humans are a threat that must be crushed before they become stronger. Ryan's heart pounded. He had to warn Earth. But how? He was trapped on an enemy warship, surrounded by warriors who would gladly kill him. Valmera continued, her expression unreadable. I do not agree with the invasion. Ryan narrowed his eyes. Why? She hesitated. Then she said, because I have studied your history. I have read your battle records. If we attack Earth, the war will not end quickly. It will not be easy. Your kind will resist. Ryan leaned forward. So what? You're afraid humanity will win. Valmera exhaled sharply. No. I fear that even if the Ktarn win, we will lose too much. Ryan watched her carefully. He could see something in her expression, a conflict. She was torn between her loyalty to the Ktarn and her understanding of what humans were capable of. Finally, Ryan spoke. Then stop it. Valmera let out a short, bitter laugh. You think I can simply stop the war? The Council has already decided. I have no power to change it. Ryan smirked. Everyone has a choice. Valmera looked at him, her golden eyes unreadable. Then she stood up. This conversation is over, she said. For now. Ryan watched as she walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back to him. You are not a prisoner anymore, but you are still being watched. Do not try anything foolish. The door closed behind her, leaving Ryan alone. He took a deep breath. He was running out of time. The Ktarn were coming for Earth, and he had to find a way to stop them. Ryan paced inside his new quarters. The room was better than a prison cell, clean, with a bed and a table, but the walls still felt like a cage. The Ktarn warship was a floating fortress, and he was still trapped inside it. He thought about what General Valmera had told him. The Ktarn were planning to invade Earth. He had to stop it. But how? A knock sounded at the door. Before he could answer, it slid open. A tall Ktarn soldier stepped inside, his scaly green skin gleaming under the lights. His red eyes studied Ryan with quiet curiosity. The general has ordered you to join her on the bridge, the soldier said. His deep voice carried a hint of distrust. Ryan gave a small smirk. What? No chains this time. The Ktarn didn't react. Follow me. Ryan sighed and walked out, his mind racing. If Valmera was letting him onto the bridge, that meant she was taking a risk. Was she testing him? Watching him? He needed to be careful. As they walked through the warship, Ryan noticed something different. Before, the Ktarn warriors had looked at him with amusement, like a weak creature they didn't take seriously. Now, Their expressions were more guarded. Some even looked wary. The fight in the arena had changed things. They reached the command bridge, a massive room filled with holographic screens. Sarn officers stood at their stations, monitoring data and ship movements. At the center, General Valmera stood with her hands behind her back, her golden eyes focused on a large display showing a planet, Earth. Ryan's stomach tightened. Valmera turned as he approached. "You are here." Ryan crossed his arms. "Yeah, I figured I didn't have much of a choice." She ignored the comment and gestured toward the screen. "The invasion force is gathering. Soon, the War Council will send the order to attack." Ryan clenched his jaw. "And you still think this is a bad idea?" Valmera nodded. "But the Council does not listen to warnings. They only listen to strength." Ryan took a slow breath. "Then you need to give them a reason to stop." Valmera turned fully to face him. "And what do you suggest?" Ryan knew he was taking a risk, but he had no other choice. He needed to plant doubt in her mind, doubt strong enough to change her actions. "You said it yourself," he began. "Humans don't surrender. We fight, even when the odds are against us. Do you really think Earth will fall easily?" Valmera watched him, silent. Ryan took a step closer. "You've studied our history. You know what happens when people try to conquer us. That Karn might win some battles, but the war, it'll never end. We'll fight until the last city burns, until your armies bleed dry." Valmera's expression didn't change, but Ryan noticed her fingers twitch slightly. A small movement, but it meant something. He pressed forward. "And what happens after the war? If the Axarn lose too many soldiers, too many ships, what stops another empire from attacking you? The Dominion won't just lose soldiers. It'll lose its place in the galaxy." Valmera's eyes narrowed slightly. Ryan could tell she was thinking about his words. Then one of the Xarn officers turned from his station. "General, we have received a communication from the War Council. They demand an update on our preparations." Valmera hesitated. Ryan could see it now, the doubt. She wasn't just following orders. She was questioning them. Finally, she turned to the officer. "Tell them we are still assessing human military strength." The officer blinked in confusion, but nodded. "Yes, General." As the officer walked away, Ryan let out a slow breath. It wasn't much, but it was something. A delay. A chance. Valmera looked at him again. "Do not mistake this for mercy, Ryan Holt," she warned. "I do not do this for you." Ryan gave her a small smirk. "Maybe not, but you are listening." For the first time, Valmera didn't have a reply. General Valmera stood on the command bridge, staring at the holographic map of Earth. The War Council had sent their orders. The invasion was to proceed as planned. But she hesitated. Ryan's words echoed in her mind. "Do you really think Earth will fall easily? The war won't end. Even if you win battles, humans will fight until the last city burns." She had studied human history. Every time an empire tried to conquer them, they resisted, fiercely, desperately. Their past was filled with wars where they fought against impossible odds and still refused to surrender. And now she was being asked to lead her people into another war. A war she was beginning to think was a mistake. She turned away from the map and looked at Ryan. He stood near the edge of the bridge, arms crossed, watching her carefully. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked. Valmera frowned. "Doing what?" "Delaying the attack," Ryan said. "You said you're not doing this for me. So why hesitate?" She exhaled slowly. "Because I am responsible for my soldiers. The War Council commands the fleet, but it is my warriors who will die in battle." Ryan studied her. "And you're not sure if it's worth it?" Valmera didn't answer. Instead, she turned to a nearby officer. "Status report on our fleet's condition." The officer, a tall Xarn with dark blue scales, straightened. "The invasion fleet is at full strength. All warships are ready. The War Council expects our attack to begin within the next cycle. Valmera nodded. And the humans? Another officer responded. Earth's defense systems are limited. They have no planetary shields, no orbital defense stations. Their technology is far behind ours. Ryan scoffed. Yeah. And how many times have you fought humans before? The officer sneered. They are weak. Ryan smirked. That's what Drexer thought, too. The officer's expression darkened, but he said nothing. Valmera held up a hand, silencing further argument. We are not underestimating them, she said firmly. Victory is never guaranteed in war. She turned to Ryan. You said humans fight for something greater than themselves. If I allow this invasion, will your people truly resist to the end? Ryan's face hardened. Without question. Valmera looked back at the holographic map. She could already see how the war would begin. The Xarn would land their forces on Earth. Cities would fall. But then, the humans would strike back. They would fight in the streets, in the mountains, in the ruins of their world if they had to. And the war would drag on. She took a slow breath. The War Council would never change their minds. They saw this invasion as necessary, and they believed in the strength of the Xarn. If Valmera refused to obey orders, she would be removed. Or worse, executed. Her people valued strength, but they did not tolerate defiance. She turned to Ryan. If I delay the attack further, the War Council will suspect something. If I openly oppose them, I will be replaced. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Then you need to do something they can't ignore. Valmera tilted her head slightly. Explain. Ryan took a step closer, lowering his voice. You said the War Council only listens to strength. Then show them what strength really looks like. Valmera's golden eyes studied him. And what do you suggest? Ryan gave her a grim smile. A demonstration. Prove to them that invading Earth will cost more than they're willing to pay. Valmera considered his words. A bold move, a dangerous one. But it might be the only way to stop the war before it begins. Finally, she nodded. Very well, human. Let us see if your people truly are as strong as you claim. Ryan exhaled, knowing this was only the beginning. The real fight was about to begin. General Valmera stood at the center of the Xarn warship's training arena, her golden eyes fixed on the warriors assembled before her. The massive hall was filled with Xarn soldiers, tall, armored, and ready for battle. The air was thick with tension. Ryan stood beside her, arms crossed, studying the scene. He knew what was coming. This was the test. Valmera had agreed to prove to the War Council that an invasion of Earth would not be as easy as they believed. But to do that, she needed a demonstration, a fight. Valmera took a step forward, addressing the gathered warriors. The War Council believes humans are weak. They believe the invasion will be swift, that the humans will surrender. She paused, her voice firm. I disagree. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The Xarn were not used to questioning orders. Valmera continued. Humans fight with more than weapons. They fight with willpower, with strategy. And I intend to prove it. She turned to Ryan. You will face 3 of my best warriors in combat. No weapons, only skill. Ryan raised an eyebrow. 3 against 1. Not exactly fair. Valmera smirked. The council believes your kind is weak. If you prove them wrong, this fight must be more than fair. It must be impossible. Ryan sighed, rolling his shoulders. Great. No pressure. The Xarn warriors chosen for the fight stepped forward. They were massive, towering over him with sharp claws and armored scales. The crowd roared with excitement. To them, this was nothing more than a show, a reminder of their superiority. The arena doors sealed shut. The fight was about to begin. Valmera raised her hand. Begin. The first warrior lunged. Ryan barely dodged, rolling to the side as a massive clawed hand slammed into the ground where he had been standing. Dust flew into the air. The second warrior came from the right. swinging a powerful fist. Ryan ducked. He was fast, faster than they expected. He spun, striking the second warrior in the ribs. The Xarn barely flinched. Ryan cursed under his breath. These guys were built like tanks. He couldn't overpower them. He had to be smarter. The third warrior rushed at him from behind. Ryan dropped low, sweeping his leg in a quick motion. The warrior stumbled but didn't fall. Too strong. Ryan adjusted his strategy. He had to use their own strength against them. The first warrior attacked again, swinging wildly. Ryan sidestepped at the last second. The Xarn's momentum carried him forward, straight into the second warrior. The two crashed together with a loud impact. The crowd went silent for a brief moment. Then murmurs of surprise spread. Ryan smirked. Big guys. Not very coordinated. The third warrior snarled and charged. Ryan waited until the last moment before shifting aside. The warrior's own speed made him slam into the arena wall. Another mistake. Another advantage. Now Ryan had an opening. He moved quickly, landing a precise strike to the first warrior's knee. The Xarn stumbled. Ryan followed with a sharp elbow to the jaw. The warrior collapsed. One down. The second warrior roared, attacking in blind rage. Ryan ducked under his swing, grabbed his arm, and twisted. The force sent the Xarn crashing onto the floor. Two down. The third warrior recovered, growling. Ryan knew he had one chance. He faked a movement to the left. The warrior reacted instantly, too fast. Ryan spun to the right instead, landing a powerful strike to the Xarn's throat. The warrior choked, stumbled, and fell. Three down. The arena went silent. Ryan stood in the center, breathing heavily. Around him, the defeated Xarn groaned in pain. Then, a slow clap echoed through the hall. It was Valmara. She stepped forward, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to the watching warriors. You have seen it for yourselves. This human has defeated 3 of our own without weapons. The Xarn soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Valmara continued. Now, imagine an entire planet of them. The tension in the air shifted. Doubt crept into the warriors' faces. The idea of an easy victory over humans suddenly seemed less certain. Ryan wiped the sweat from his forehead. He wasn't sure if this was enough to stop the invasion. But it was a start. Valmara met his gaze and gave a small nod. The War Council would not ignore this. The War Council chamber was massive, its dark metal walls lined with glowing red banners. Seated in a circular formation were the highest-ranking Xarn leaders, their golden eyes locked onto General Valmara as she stood before them. The air was thick with tension. At the center of the chamber, standing beside Valmara, was Ryan. His body still ached from the fight in the arena, but he kept his stance firm. He wasn't just here to defend himself. He was here to defend all of humanity. A Xarn elder, taller than even Valmara, leaned forward. His voice was deep and commanding. You summoned this council to delay the invasion. We have granted you this meeting. Speak quickly. Valmara's expression remained calm, but her voice was strong. I called this meeting because the invasion of Earth is a mistake. The room erupted in murmurs of disbelief. Some Xarn warriors even growled in frustration. One of the council members slammed his fist on the table. You dare question the Dominion's decision? Valmara did not flinch. Yes. The elder's eyes narrowed. Explain. She gestured toward Ryan. You believe humans are weak, that they will surrender. This human proved otherwise. A holographic screen flickered to life, displaying the footage from the training arena. The council watched as Ryan took down 3 elite Xarn warriors without weapons. The murmurs grew louder. Some of the council members exchanged uneasy glances. Valmara continued. He is one man. Now imagine an entire planet filled with soldiers like him, fighting in their cities, in their forests, in the ruins of their world if they have to. She stepped forward. This war will not be easy. We may win battles, But the humans will never stop fighting. Their history proves it. One of the council members scoffed. Their history means nothing. They lack technology. Their armies are weak. Ryan stepped forward now, his voice firm. You think numbers and ships win wars. Ask the ones who fought us before. Ask those who thought they could break us. He took a slow breath. You won't just be fighting soldiers. You'll be fighting civilians, engineers, farmers, and even children, because humans don't stop. We don't kneel. We don't give up. The room fell into silence. Ryan's words lingered in the air. He could see the hesitation in some of the council members' eyes. But then, another council member, a veteran with scars across his face, spoke. Even if you are right, it does not matter. The Dominion has already decided. The invasion will proceed. Ryan clenched his jaw. He had expected this. The Xarn valued strength, but they also valued loyalty to their empire. The War Council would not change their minds so easily. Valmera's voice broke the silence. Then let me offer a challenge. The council turned to her, intrigued. She took a step forward. If the invasion must happen, let us test humanity first. Send a small force, and a leak unit, to face them in battle. If they are as weak as you believe, then the invasion will continue without question. Her eyes hardened. But if they prove their strength, then we reconsider. The elder studied her for a long moment. Then he glanced at Ryan. And you, human, do you accept this challenge? Ryan exhaled slowly. He knew what this meant. A small Xarn force would land on Earth, and if humanity couldn't prove themselves, the full invasion would come. But if they could win, even once, then there was hope. He met the elder's gaze and nodded. We accept. The elder sat back in his chair. Very well. The test will begin soon. Ryan and Valmera turned to leave. As they walked out of the chamber, Ryan spoke quietly. You just bought us a chance. Now we have to make sure we don't waste it. Valmera nodded. For your people's sake, I hope you do not. The fight for Earth had begun. The sky above Earth burned with streaks of fire as Xarn dropships entered the atmosphere. From the ground, Ryan watched them descend, his fists clenched. The test had begun. If humanity failed this battle, the full invasion would follow. He stood with a small group of soldiers in a ruined city, one of many abandoned places where humanity had chosen to make their stand. Broken buildings, shattered streets, and the distant hum of Xarn engines filled the air. The humans had no advanced technology, no energy weapons, no warships in orbit. But they had something else. They had a plan. Ryan tapped his radio. Eyes on enemy approach. A voice crackled through. Confirmed. 4 dropships landing in Sector 3. Estimated 20 warriors per ship. 80 Xarn warriors. More would come if the humans failed. Ryan took a deep breath. All right, people. We're not here to fight them head-on. We can't match their strength, but we can outthink them. The soldiers nodded. They weren't trained like Xarn warriors, but they had something the enemy didn't expect: adaptability. Ryan raised his fist. Get to your positions. Stick to the plan. The team scattered, vanishing into the ruined city. The Xarn attack. General Valmera watched the battle from the command deck of her ship. The War Council had allowed her to observe, but she was forbidden from interfering. This was humanity's test. The Xarn warriors moved in formation, advancing through the ruined streets. They were stronger, faster, and better equipped. Victory should have been easy, but it wasn't. Valmera's eyes narrowed as the first squad was suddenly hit by an explosion. The ground beneath them collapsed. Humans had set traps using old tunnels and sewers. Xarn soldiers fell into the pits, struggling to escape as gunfire rained down on them. A second squad moved to assist, but they were ambushed from above. Human snipers, hidden in buildings, took precise shots at weak points in the Xarn armor. A third squad tried to advance, but smoke grenades blinded them. Human fighters moved through the cover like ghosts, striking fast before disappearing again. The Karn were fighting an enemy they couldn't see. Valmira exhaled. They are using the battlefield against us. An officer beside her scowled. Cowards, they refuse to fight us directly. Valmira shook her head. No, they are fighting to win. She watched as Ryan led a small team in a flanking maneuver. They didn't engage in long firefights. They struck fast, forcing the Karn to waste energy to chase ghosts. This was not an army fighting for conquest. This was a species fighting for survival. Turning the tide, Ryan pressed his back against a broken wall, breathing hard. The Karn were getting frustrated. They weren't used to fighting like this. A soldier crouched beside him. We're running low on ammo. Ryan nodded. Then we make every shot count. The ground trembled as a massive Karn warrior approached. A commander, leading reinforcements. He was bigger, stronger, and carrying a weapon that could tear through walls. Ryan glanced at his team. All right. New plan. He grabbed a discarded radio from a fallen Karn soldier and clicked it on. Static filled the air before a deep alien voice spoke. Humans, your resistance is useless. Ryan smirked and replied, funny. That's what the last guy said before we wiped them out. The Karn commander growled. You cannot win. Ryan looked at his team. Let's prove him wrong. They spread out, moving through the ruins. Ryan sprinted across an open street, drawing fire. The Karn commander fired his weapon, blasting chunks of concrete. That's what Ryan wanted. A moment later, a sniper shot rang out. A direct hit to the commander's weapon, disabling it. Ryan charged. The Karn tried to react, but Ryan was already inside his guard. A quick movement, a well-placed explosive, and boom! The commander fell. The remaining Karn hesitated. And that was all humanity needed. Victory. The battle ended hours later. The Karn forces were retreating. The test had shown them the truth. Humanity was not weak. Valmira turned away from the screen, her decision made. She tapped her communicator. Inform the War Council. The invasion must be reconsidered. The war was not over. But for the first time, humanity had a fighting chance. Ryan stood in the ruins, watching the Karn ships leave. He exhaled. One battle won. Many more to come. But humanity would never surrender. The Karn War Council sat in silence, their golden eyes locked on the battle reports. The test invasion had failed. The humans had won. The elder at the head of the council spoke first. This was not a true battle. A full invasion will crush them. General Valmira stepped forward. No, the humans have proven their strength. They will not surrender. A war against them will not end quickly. The elder's gaze darkened. Are you suggesting we retreat? Valmira took a deep breath. I am suggesting we negotiate. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Karn Empire had never backed down from conquest before. Valmira continued. Humanity does not fight for power or territory. They fight for survival. We have seen their determination. If we invade, they will burn their own world before they let us have it. She paused. We will win battles, but we will lose the war. The elder stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned to a screen displaying Earth. And what does the human think? Ryan stood in the center of the chamber. He had been brought here as part of the final decision. He met the elder's gaze. We don't want war. But if you come for our planet, we will fight. His voice was calm but firm. And you won't like how that ends. The elder's expression was unreadable. Then he leaned back in his seat. Very well. He looked at the council members. Let it be known, the invasion of Earth is no longer a priority. A wave of shock passed through the room, but no one dared to speak against him. Ryan felt his muscles relax slightly, but he didn't celebrate yet. The elder turned to Valmira. And what of you? You brought us this human. You defended his people. What is your place now? Valmira straightened. I will stay with the humans. More murmurs. The elder studied her for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. Then go. But remember, if humanity ever becomes a threat, we will return. Ryan smirked. Then I guess we'll just have to make sure we don't. A new future. The War Council had made its decision. The Xarn ships pulled away from Earth, leaving behind only a few observation vessels. The war was over before it truly began. Ryan stood at the edge of a ruined city, watching the sky clear of enemy ships. He let out a slow breath. Well, that was close. Beside him, Valmira nodded. Your people won more than just a battle today. You won your future. Ryan looked at her. And you. You gave up your place in the Empire for us. She smiled slightly. I did what was right. Ryan chuckled. Guess that makes you an honorary human now. Valmira raised an eyebrow. That sounds strange. Ryan smirked. You'll get used to it. He looked back at the sky. The war had been avoided, but humanity's fight wasn't over. They had proven their strength, but now they had to rebuild, to prepare to grow stronger. Because one day, another threat would come. And when it did, humanity would be ready. The end.